Gee whiz, Wendy, you are really a doll. I've known Wendy forever, and her husband, Phil, isn't that his name? That guy, you know Phil, and I don't know if you know their background. I'm sure you do, all of you, but when we came in and took over the White House on January 20th, 1981, there were two Democrats. We wanted to make everything bipartisan. And in this world, it's not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's not liberal, it's not conservative, it's not left-wing, it's not right-wing. It's just good economics, and that's all that really matters. And we had two pieces of legislation, and we wanted to make sure that they were bipartisan sponsored. One was our spending bill, which we got your husband. It became Graham Latta, and then we got Kent Hance to sponsor the tax cut. So we always went to the greatest state in the world to get the good co-sponsors. But it's a real play. By the way, 2.5 years ago, I was a Californian, and I was on the Governor's Council of Economic Advisors, and when the governor switched sides and sort of went to the dark side, and he did, I decided I was going to leave. I had not yet studied Davy Crockett. I wish I had, because if I'd have discovered Davy Crockett before this, I would have said, "You all can go to hell. I'm going to Texas." But I made a great second choice. However, I did move to Nashville, Tennessee, but my daughter, who was at Sacramento at the time, living up there, we went over all the stuff together. There's a family powwow. We went over all the stuff, and she decided to move to Texas. So she lives right here, just outside of Austin. If any of you know a little place called Georgetown. She lives out there. I have these two little red-headed granddaughters living out there. They look like little leprechauns. They do. They're just the cutest things. They're just great. And one of them, the 7-year-old, asked me to tell this joke to start today, so forgive me. But she said, "Grandpa, would you do that, please, for me, my new joke?" And I'll tell you what her new joke is. Did you hear about the Invisible Man? He married the Invisible Woman. Their kids weren't much to look at either. Isn't that the cutest thing you've ever heard? It's hard. Let me if I can start off, and I'm just gonna. There are certain things that just give you the meat and potatoes bang. I mean, they just say it all. And let me, if I can, in this study, just to say it all. And I'll give you one example that I remember as a kid that just said it all. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I was born and raised there, and the story back when I was a kid was 90% of the Canadians live within 100 miles of the U.S.-Canadian border, and less than 10% of the Americans live within 100 miles of the U.S.-Canadian border. Doesn't that just say it all? Well, there's another one that just says it all. And let me, if I can, go through this one with you, because this is our study. I mean, this is the essence of our study. As you know, there's a company called U-Haul. U-Haul, you can rent a truck one way to move yourself. The largest truck you can rent without a chauffeur's license is a 26-footer. Okay? And that's the largest one you can do there, and you can rent it to move yourself. And U-Haul publishes their one-way rates all the time. It's on their website. The latest website I have, and let me, if I can, give it to you. If you are moving from San Francisco to Austin, Texas, the cost of renting a U-Haul 26-footer one way is $3,236. If, on the other hand, you are living in Austin, Texas, and you want to move to San Francisco, California, you can rent that same truck going the other way for $399. That is right off their website. So help me God. When I moved from California to Tennessee, we did that. As a matter of fact, the same thing. It was really expensive doing the U-Hauls from San Diego to Nashville. So what I did was I had my guys fly out in Southwest, out there to Nashville, rent the truck, come all the way back, boom, fill it up, pull it all the way back, which I did. we had 5 of these trucks, and just a fun story. Not apropos here, but one guy I had, Mike Madsen, who's all buttoned up, very, very fastidious, careful. We use Penske instead of U-Haul, but it's the same difference. The rates are the same. And when he brought the first truck back, and the Penske guy was checking the truck and looking at it back open and everything, he said, it's all clean, there are no bumps, it's all fine. By the way, what's the mileage on this? My guy said, excuse me? But there's unlimited mileage. He said, oh, yeah, I know. It's unlimited mileage, but we just like to keep it for our records. The guy looked at his mileage, he said, 4,300 miles? And my guy just said, I took side roads. Let me, if I can, tell you that it's a sad day to report that California has done so poorly. It's not a good day. I moved to California in 1976. I loved the place. I had been there to get my PhD and MBA at Stanford, but I then moved to the University of Chicago. I moved back with great delight. California went through a revolution in 1978. We had Proposition 13. Not only did we put limits on property taxes, we got rid of the inheritance tax in the state of California. We indexed the personal income tax. We did all sorts of other things. We had, again, spending limits, Proposition 4. We had all sorts of other things, and the dream really did come true then. California prospered. But then late in the 80s, early 90s, it started reversing. And today, California is in desperate, desperate shape. It is not a funny situation. The numbers I'm going to report to you today aren't just numbers. These are real people, and they're real things. When you see an unemployed person, it's a personal tragedy of incredible proportion. A person's hours are a perishable natural resource that can never be recouped. And it's not just the loss of income and the loss of salaries and the loss of standard of living for the kids. It's much, much more than that. The person's self-esteem. I mean, imagine coming back to your family and telling them you can't find a job. You've been unemployed. You lose you drink too much. You treat your kids. It's far more. So what I beg you today to do is, when you look at this, while these are numbers on black and white pages, they are far, far more than that. These are real people, real lives, real futures. The tragedy that is California today, as I'm going to go through, and the success that is you, it's a human tragedy, and the dream is that we can convert California to the truth, beauty, and pro-growth paths. It's not rocket, what is it? Did we say the Gatlin brothers? I'm going to put it the way the Gatlin brothers put it. This ain't rocket surgery. This is common sense. I mean, am I going way over your heads if I do it this way? If you have 2 locations, A and B, if you raise taxes in A and you lower them in B, producers and manufacturers are going to move from 2. Is that going way over your head? Harvard professors don't get it, but you guys do. If you tax people who work and you pay people who don't work, don't be surprised if you've aligned a lot of people not working. It's just plain common. You don't need a PhD in economics to understand the obvious. You know, when you look at these